everybody. Sorry about that. I was working on some things and it didn't work. So that's always fun. If you hear weird cat growls or anything like that, I'm going to apologize right now because my cat Sky is right beside me and the kitten is too. And they're fighting. Aw, I never had a dad or anything, so I don't feel bad. It's really sad that your mom is gone. Cove nodded. You joked about Shiloh's mom getting together with Cove's dad. Even if they're all different, our parents are good in their own ways. Yeah. Cove couldn't muster a response. You don't think he truly disagreed, though. The silence broke with a splash as Lizzie kicked in your direction. Cold water and soda sand splattered against your legs. Lizzie giggled, foot still outstretched from the kick. Cove joined in, striking the incoming waves to make a splash of his own. Shiloh scurried out of Cove's spray zone with a grin. You retaliated. You used your foot to smack the water pooling around you, sending an arc of sea foam flying back onto your sister. You laughed as she spluttered, some of the salty sea water having landed in her mouth. She spat it out. Yuck! Lizzie chased you, intent on revenge. You dashed up and down the coast, taking in turns to be the predator and the prey, as well as joining forces to take down Shiloh or Cove. Alliances were silently forged and wordlessly broken. Everything was fair game in war. Ah! Shiloh's brief explanation was drowned out by the biggest splash yet, caused by him falling face first onto the ground. That would have been had enough without the wave that followed, cascading over his prone body. Shiloh sat up, shaking his head like a dog coming in from the rain. As you all hurried to check on him, his hair plastered on his head and his soaked clothes clung. If there was any part of him that was still dry, you couldn't see it. That was crazy. Are you okay? Okay, this is gonna be taken away from you. You're grounded. My cat is making as much noise as possible. 'Cause she's a kitten. She's being a meanie. Way to go, Shiloh, you Dumbo. You offered him some help. Let him get up. Shiloh didn't take your outstretched hand. After a moment, you dropped it. Lizzie was too busy snickering to notice and held her hand out to Shiloh, too. He reached over and took it, slowly started to pull himself from the ground. Then he slipped on the slick sand, dragging him and Lizzie down just in time for another wave to hit. The water rolled over them. Pfft. Ah, sorry. What were the odds of that happening twice in a row? You thought they must be low. But there's no way Shiloh would do something like that on purpose, then pretend it was an accident. Especially not to Lizzie. Even if your relationship with Shiloh felt unclear, he did at least like her a lot. Lizzie was his favorite, right? Smiling baldly, Lizzie extracted herself from the ground and wiped a streak of sand from her cheek. She didn't intend to let this embarrass her. Shiloh got up again as well, this time without incident. He still looked like a drowned puppy, but that didn't stop Cove laughing at the two of them. With that, it was time to call it a day. The four of you made the journey back home, leaving a trail of wet footsteps and sand in your wake. Damp clothes may have weighed down some of the group, but your spirits were high. Your arms swung side to side as a cool breeze flowed past. Your moms were outside, chatting to Cove's dad. We're back! Your moms' faces fell as they took in the state you were all in, ranging from messy to soaked. Elizabeth, is that all that you have to say for yourself? You brought half the beach back with you. That they certainly did. What's Marigold going to do when she comes to get Shiloh? Is that how you want him to be for the long drive home? Cold and filthy? Lizzie's expression turned sulky over the scolding. Being the oldest could be fun, but it also meant she was the first to get in trouble when something went wrong. Mr. Holden, on the other hand, chuckled as he ruffled Cove's matted hair. You've been out making memories, bucko. I'm glad you had a good time with your friends. Cove used his slightly moist cast iron to push his dad off. Mr. Holden's eyes widened when he noticed even that had gone wet. Now he was worried, too. I think they could have found a less risky way to spend time and had just as much fun. That might be right, kids. What can you do? Come on, Cove. Let's go get you cleaned up and dried off. We wouldn't want that cast staff to be reset. Cove winced at the thought. "'Kay. That a boy." Mr. Holden casually bent down and plucked Cove off the ground, ultimately holding Cove against his chest. Sand was already transferring from Cove onto him, but that didn't seem to bother Mr. Holden. Cove protested being carried, but only got reassuring pats on the back for his trouble. "Good night, Cove. Thank you for the talk, Cliff." "Night. Hi, family, and Shiloh too." Resigned to his fate, Cove twisted his body in his dad's arms in order to turn around and wave goodbye. Smiling, he waved back. "Good night." "Well, we better do what we can to fix you guys up too. Come on, everybody inside. I want you to march straight to the downstairs bathroom." "Yes, Mom." "Okay, Lizzie's mom." "Don't worry about stopping to wipe your feet on the mat this time. That won't do much good tonight." Sitting on an old beach towel your mommy had found you, you waited in the hall. Until you were less sandy, you weren't allowed to go to your room or walk around the house. But you did get to eat a sandwich for dinner there. It felt like an indoor picnic. It had been decided that Charlie would wash first and borrow some of your clothes. He was already finished and packed away in his mom's car. Miss Fields had come to collect him a little while ago. It was a bit of a funny experience seeing him without that hat on for once. Lizzie, being much more soaked than you, got to go in the tub next. It wasn't a bubble bath as she had hoped. This was a no fun allowed cleanup session, at least that's what she claimed. Not much longer, it would be your turn. When the bath was done, you'd have to go right to bed. After a day like this, though, you were glad there weren't going to be any further events. Drifting off to sleep sounded like a great idea. Ooh. Okay. We got the DLCs. This is just step 1. Cove wasn't able to do many things that summer. When you and him and Shiloh sat out on the shoreline one bright morning, you could tell he wanted to be in the water. But there was no way he'd be swimming anytime soon. Not with his cast. The waves washed a single shell to shore, glittering in blue. Another reminder of the place he couldn't go. From what you heard about Cove's old life so far, in tiny pieces and fragments, you could tell that he'd do anything to be able to get the cast off. Like make a pact with a witch or something, just to get it off his arm. You thought about how his summer last year must have been totally different from this, with his old home and his mom and dad. But now he was here, with you and Shiloh and Lizzie and everyone else, and he couldn't even go in the sea. This town wasn't bad. It had all your favorite things in it. But sitting there on the same beach you'd grown up on, you could understand that not everything else felt the same way about Sunset Bird as you did. You watched him from the corner of your eye quietly, and he finally said aloud what you had been pondering. "I wish I could go in." "The water?" Oops. "Yeah." "Oh, I'm sorry. You're gonna be able to do it soon." Cove only sighed in response. Apparently soon wasn't soon enough. "It's so pretty, the ocean." "Mm-hmm. And huge. There could be anything out there, like mermaids." "Yeah." "I wish you didn't have the cast. I don't really care to swim. It might be fun." "I wish you didn't have the cast." "Me too." Obviously not interested in hearing much more of your input on the situation, Cove turned back to the water. Uh... Let's save real quick. Swimming might be fun if we could, but it's not like there's anything we can do about it. Obviously, okay. I'm fine here on land. Alright. Oh. I don't think it really mattered what I said. Let's try one more time. Shiloh gasped, but Cove just shrugged. Says you. Okay, yeah. No matter what, he's gonna be upset. But as he looked away, something about Shiloh's slow, careful movements caught his eye. Hey, are you building a sandcastle? Sort of. I was only playing around while you were talking. I'm listening. Maybe I could too. I've only made big piles before. It's really nothing special. I'm sure you'll be good at it right away. Well, how do you do it then? Shiloh's cheeks lit up. You could tell he was a little bit uncomfortable to have Cove's expectant stare on him. I'll play too. I love making sand stuff. I never really made one before. Okay. He put his hands back to his seashells and sand and nodded. I don't do a lot. Here's how I will get a house started. Shiloh, focusing more intently than you ever seen him, guided Cove through his process. You happily used your own method. It didn't take long for the three of you to each have humble structures prepared. That's all, kind of. You can do anything now, like make it bigger, add some seashells, carve a pretty pattern. I bet you'll have great ideas. I'm gonna make it bigger. Mine is gonna be a real castle. Cool, this is gonna be a house. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to make a house, a castle, a mansion. Well, we always did castles. Looking at the base of your sandcastle, you decided to build a fancy castle. The better part of the next hour was spent focusing on your own work. The boys were the same. Even Shiloh didn't sneak as many peeks at everyone else as he usually did. You finished shaping before either of them did, glancing up from what you built. It seems you got done so fast because they're already searched around for extra decorations. Shiloh had grabbed most of the really interested stuff, and Cove had a lot of shells, but there were still options. First thing you reached for was... we're gonna go with the blue seashell. As the best fit for your castle, you decided. The blue color of it still reminded you of the clear water. So you put it on a fanny place where it'd take a second look to see it. Pleased with your result, you finally took a proper look around that wasn't focused on the sand itself. Both Cove and Shiloh seemed super immersed still. You knew you could probably sneak a peek at either one's work. We're gonna look at Cove's sandcastle. The castle Cove had built looked surprisingly tidy, especially for someone in a cast. He must have worked really hard. He wasn't even finished digging the huge gaping moat in front, but it was already enormous. You got the sense from the enthusiasm he was digging with that doctor was probably going to find a bunch of sand when he finally removed the pink plaster. The silence was then broken. What's on top of yours, Shiloh? You peeked closer and discovered something shiny sticking out of Shiloh's sand chimney. Oh, it's just a gum wrapper. It looks like smoke. It's good. That's smart. Yeah, I didn't think of that. I guess I don't see it. You should be an architect. You should be an architect. You'd be good at it, Shiloh. Shiloh smiled without a word. And that was that for the current topic. B, can I see what you did? Sure. He scooted just a bit nearer and began surveying your work. The castle you built was pretty impressive, all things considered. It had archways, tall walls, and even a little moat circling it. You would probably feel safe living there. Maybe your moms were the queens. Shiloh quickly decided to jump in the new conversation. Hey, B, what did you do? This is my castle. Shiloh didn't look so happy anymore. You both built castles? Yeah. Aw, that's neat, how you guys match. It's too bad we didn't all do it. Next time we should. Wouldn't that be boring? If something is the only one of that thing, that makes it special. Yeah, for sandcastles and stuff. People too. My dad always says how everybody is their own man, a real individual. I don't think I'm very special. Why not? Nobody else is you. Shiloh simply shook his head. I'm not different. A beat passed between the two. Cove then looked down at his own work again. Okay. He didn't seem to be bothered leaving the disagreement hanging there. Cove had other things on his mind. My dad tried to get me to make sandcastles the first time we came to this beach. I didn't want to. Cove trailed off again. There was another moment of silence. Shiloh shifted and opened his mouth to say something, but Cove spoke up before he could. You didn't think he noticed that Shiloh was going to talk. Hey, do you know what happened when your moms met my dad, Bee? You waited to see if Shiloh would say what he wanted to. When he didn't, you considered Cove's question. I wasn't there. They didn't tell me. I just remember what happened when I met your dad. Mr. Holden had been a weird stranger then. Well, he was still kind of strange. No other parent acted like him, but you knew him better at this point. Now that you thought about it, it made a lot of sense that Cove's dad talked to him about people being unique. You were pulled from your thoughts when Cove continued. Oh, well, I was there. I don't think my mom has met your dad. Yeah, I'm pretty sure she hasn't. Bee's parents and my dad met the same day I met her. I'm gonna say what happened. Shiloh frowned to himself, ducking his head. His hat cast a shadow over his face. You could still tell he was upset at not being included in Cove's choice of topic. That was kind of boring for him, though giving people their own turn to say the things they want is important too. You stayed silent and let Cove finish his story. Shiloh could talk about stuff after Cove had a chance to share what he planned on. When we moved there, we didn't bring a lot of things with us, only some stuff that would fit in Dad's car. We'd even get a moving truck. I sat in there while Dad brought it all inside. I didn't want to get out because I knew Dad would make me look around the new house. I really didn't want to do that. His lips twisted into a frown as he recalled that. Then I saw your moms. They were in a car too and stopped at your house. I guess they were coming back from somewhere or something. My dad noticed. He waved his hand and then went over to the front of your house where he started talking to them. I don't know what they said. I couldn't hear it. But he couldn't see me anymore since he was looking the other way. So I opened the car door and left. I wanted to get away and went behind the houses. I found those hills there, the ones where we met for the first time. Cove nodded, then stared at you. You stared back. He didn't go on to say anything more. Aren't you gonna finish your story? Cove's brow wrinkled like he didn't understand why you were surprised. That's all that happened. Okay, why did you tell the story if nothing happened? You really gotta get better at telling stories. Thanks for telling me. You're welcome. Even if not much happened, you weren't going to complain about knowing the story. Shiloh's mouth twisted into a scowl of disbelief, but he said nothing. Why do you bring that up anyway? There was a slight shrug of Cove's shoulder. I was thinking about it because of the sandcastle. It made me remember when I moved to here. Dad showed me the beach first, before we went back to the car to unpack. He was really excited about it for some reason. Cove's brows furrowed a little more as he quietly raked his hands through the sand. I get it. You thought maybe Mr. Holden wasn't that excited about the beach and was instead hoping Cove might be. But the line of the conversation had come to its end. Even Cove was done with it. Some other topic had popped into his head. Shiloh, fidgeting uncomfortably in the sand, had made Cove aware of his presence again. They looked at each other, and you could only wonder what this might be about. Hey, Shiloh? Yeah? Why are you always turning so red, even when nothing is happening? Clearly startled, he jerked back. Neither you or Shiloh had expected that to be how he got included in the conversation again. I don't know, I guess. Okay, it's kind of weird. Shiloh's eyes were wide with embarrassment, and his lips twitched, and he was blushing even harder than before. Maybe it wasn't only this. Perhaps it was simply the last straw. But it was a big deal to Shiloh. A huge deal. He didn't just look sad. He almost seemed panicked. You weren't sure if he was about to cry or run away or what, but you soon got an answer. Why do you wear glasses? Most kids don't wear glasses, and nobody is named Cove. Who asked you to come? It was probably just your dad bugging B's family some more, 'cause you don't have anyone else who will ever play with you. Cove blinked. The tension on the beach was suddenly uncomfortable in a way you didn't know how to laugh it off. It didn't seem like the kind of thing he'd get upset about, though you hadn't ever known that kind of thing would bother Shiloh. I'm sorry. Me too. I was just wondering. You nervously messed with the sound. Hey, let's build another sandcastle. The day is going to be over soon. B, you're right. The sun's going down so fast. You all went back to making more sandcastles, but the whole mood had changed. Shiloh's cheeriness was clearly gone, and Cove looked as confused as ever about why the other boy had blown up. The air stayed uncomfortable the rest of the afternoon, right up to the moment that Shiloh's mom appeared at the beach to take him home. At least you tried to do something to resolve it, though, and it seemed like it helped. Even though Shiloh's smile when he said goodbye to Cove wavered, it stayed as bright as ever for you. That had to count for something. But with Shiloh gone and the sun going down, you knew it was time for you and Cove to head to your own homes. The two of you trailed out of the park together towards the neighborhood. The walk home was quiet. You passed by familiar landmarks, shoes thumping against the sidewalk in near perfect unison. Cove was clearly caught up in thinking about something. You asked Cove what he's thinking. Something was definitely up, so you chose to reach out to him and ask. Hey, Cove, is everything okay? You're making a funny face. Oh, I was just wondering. Cove fell silent again for a few more seconds, then sighed. Why'd Shiloh act like that when I said he was all red a lot? You were being to ruin him. He's just a baby. You shouldn't make fun of him. He gets embarrassed. Embarrassed? But I didn't say anything that bad. It might have upset him anyway. I guess I can get it. Why would he do that? Sometimes I get really mad too. Despite seemingly coming to a conclusion, Cove's mood was still sour. Hey, B, was Shiloh telling the truth? Huh? His gaze left yours as he dug the sole of his shoe into the ground. He looked oddly vulnerable for a second. Does my dad make you hang out with me? I know he talks to your moms about that a lot. An uncomfortable weight settled in your chest at the question. You liked spending time with Cove. You didn't even have to think hard about it. You knew you did. But you can't help feeling guilty. Cove still didn't know what happened when you met Mr. Holden. Nobody's making me spend time with you. Does do stuff so you'll hang out with my family. You decide Tom has dad offered to pay. We're going to say nobody makes me spend time with you. Cove's shoulders relaxed. You hadn't even noticed that he had tensed up. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Anyway, I didn't think you were pretending. I just wanted to make sure it was okay, is all. Thanks for telling me. Your throat tightened. It was hard to meet Cove's earnest gaze again. Keeping secrets was hard. You're welcome. By now, the two of you were on the sidewalk near your house. It was time to part ways. We're gonna hug him. You stepped forward and wrapped your arms around him tightly. You turned your head, resting your cheek on his shoulder. Cove stood there awkwardly with his hand at his sides. He wasn't able to return the hug, but you didn't get the impression he was unhappy about it. You were pretty sure it was the opposite. Bye, Cove. See you tomorrow. Yeah, bye, Bee. You pulled away, then jogged towards your house. When you looked back, you saw Cove making his way back home, too. As if he felt your eyes on him, he turned around. He waved, and you did, too. You still felt a little unsure what you were supposed to do about the deal Cove's dad had offered. You didn't want to say something bad or something you shouldn't. You had no idea how Cove would take it either. It'd be terrible if it made him feel bad. What if he didn't want to play with you anymore? You might change your mind sometime. There were always tomorrow after all. But for now it was definitely something that you'd keep to yourself. With a final look, you went inside your house. Oh, that was short. That was a lot shorter than I thought it would be. Okay. Fireflies. Alright, tonight we're going to catch fireflies. At this blunt declaration for your sister, you looked up from your macaroni and cheese dinner. Fireflies were a family sight over summer, coming out on warm nights to dance through the sky. Tonight was particularly balmy. You knew there were bound to be a ton of them around. Oh, you are you? Yeah. You walked slightly from side to side in your seat, already excited for your after-dinner activity. Catching fireflies was a great way to spend a summer evening, and you could already envision the little lightning bugs drifting through the darkened sky. That's a good idea, Lizzie. Can we, Miss Hive? Shiloh tapped his fork against the table excitedly, his face lighting up as he looked at Lizzie. It was unusual for Shiloh to still be here. Like always, his mom had to bring him over really early in the morning before her job started. But normally she would have picked him up by now. She called before dinner to let your moms know she'd be late. You didn't hear why. Probably more work things. You thought maybe getting to hang out with Shiloh for longer is what made Lizzie want to keep running around outside. Staying at home and watching TV was never an option for her with guests over. That's why you were pretty sure she'd get your moms to agree. Well, it's already so dark out there. Lizzie gave Mom the best puppy dog eyes she could, slowly spooning mac and cheese into her mouth while you waited there for their response. Let them go. Night like this don't happen every day. Nights like this. Your parents exchanged a look, then Mom eventually sighed and nodded back. Yes! Along with Lizzie's cheers, you threw your arms up in triumph, but waited until you finished chewing to say anything because you knew it was rude to talk with your mouth full. Fine. Just make sure you stay on the hill behind our house with all the poppies, okay? Duh, Mom. That's where most of them are. The idea had only just been planted into your head, but already you could just picture all the glowing lights spread out in front of you, like the fairies from the bedtime stories Mommy read sometimes. All too quickly, it became a race to see who could finish their food first. No choking at the dinner table now. That's right. If someone died, we'd have to cancel the firefly trip after all. Mom said it like a joke, but you knew that they were both telling you kids to slow down. Shiloh did immediately. When you glanced at Lizzie, you saw her still eating faster than she should. Elizabeth? No one's gonna die. Sheesh. A knock on the door interrupted Mom before she could no doubt scold your sister. I'll get it. Your big sister jumped out of her seat and ran over to the door, pulling it open without even looking out the window to see who it was. Huh? You shifted in your seat to try and get a glimpse of the unexpected guest. Good evening, Cove. Your mommy had already walked to the door by the time you managed to see past Shiloh's flappy hat. Oh, Cove, you're here. Hi. There's a million things you thought of that you wanted to tell him about. Lizzie's homer and the baseball game earlier in the day, your first successful cartwheel, but most importantly, you wanted to ask if he'd come firefly catching with you all. You saw him direct smile at you and returned it with an eager wave. Then, for a few seconds, Cove said nothing. He only stood there and looked up at your mommy with a face almost like he was considering turning around and leaving. My dad told me to drop this off, 'cause I guess he borrowed it from you. Cove took a familiar screwdriver from out of his large side pocket. Eyes now dropped to the floor. We left ours back home when we moved. Great, thanks. Bye. Thank you. Here, why don't you come inside for a bit? Lizzie crossed her arms and lifted her chin. Cove shrugged and Mom stood from the table too. I'll give your dad a call to let him know you got here all right. Oh, that's the timer. So, unfortunately, we gotta save here. And I'll see you guys in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed this, because we're going to be working on this as our next visual novel. So, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!